It's easy to lose confidence on descents. Whether you haven't practiced for a while, like me, or you're a beginner, or recovering from a crash. But what does it take to go from feeling unsafe to being super confident and skilled on downhills? It all has to do with something that has the power to transform your descending. What I've uncovered is like nothing else I've seen before. In fact, the tools and insights could be the game changer that you've been waiting for, with one of them potentially being the best thing you've ever heard. It will fill you with confidence and make you faster. And it all starts with something called skills training that helps cyclists develop their technical skill set, but there's more, as I'll also be looking into how the latest science on descending can help us. And yes, I mean us, because it's my turn to take on a challenge. I'm gonna face my fears and try to go faster downhill than ever before. See, it's been a few years since I've lived near any hills, so I'm a little bit rusty on the downhills and I just need to increase my confidence. So I have just set out a 5-kilometer course that I'm going to time myself on. And then once I've timed myself on that course, I'm gonna see if I can improve, and I'm gonna bring you along for everything that I've learned. I've just made it to the top of the descent. Now I'm gonna go down my first run and see what the time is. My starting point really isn't so bad. I've been riding for over 30 years. I'm just feeling a little rusty in certain areas. And the other thing is habits. I might actually have some bad or dangerous habits that I'm not aware of, so I'm sort of critically analyzing those habits to see if I can improve and get some free speed. I just finished the first run down the hill. I did it in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. It's 138 BPM average and 35.8 kilometers speed average. It was a little bit sketchy because there was a few cars and extra things that I didn't account for, but overall I felt pretty comfortable on that descent, but I do know that I can do better. I'm giving myself 2 weeks to ride the course faster and safer, and my goal is 13 seconds faster. But why 13 seconds specifically? You'll find out later. I've used skill coaching in the past with athletes that were transitioning from road to mountain biking and road to gravel with great success. To guide my progress and stop me focusing on the wrong things, I got on a call with Dylan Cooper, Australia's top cycling skills coach, who's helped hundreds of cyclists improve their bike handling, and the person I trust to guide my athletes. Now, I want to increase my confidence, and for me, I've figured out that that means I want to increase my corner speed and I want to do it safely. But confidence means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So what types of goals are people coming to you with?
Goals vary from not wanting to crash so much, so obviously gaining control so that doesn't happen, to using that same control and advancing it to go faster and have advantage over their rivals or mates or whatever it is. The other one could be simply efficiency. So they seem to go fast, say in a road race down each descent, but they're gassed by the time they get to the climbs or pedally sections. So that efficiency that comes with descending well without being on the limit.
If I want to narrow my goals down, I don't want to think about fitness, or I don't want to think about aero positions. Simply, it is about increasing corner speed. What would be the first steps that you would walk me through if I was one of your athletes?
I'd usually just start with getting people comfortable with knowing the mechanics of what's going on, rather than just say, lean heaps, get off the brakes. I think it's more about going, okay, when you approach a corner, this is a bit of a sequence. So get into this position. This is where you start looking through. This is where you start your braking and front versus rear. This is where you start leaning. Look at leaning in to aim for the line you want, which is individual and, a lot of variables, and so on and so forth.
After my call, Dylan let me into his rider hub that has an entire program to get me descending faster. And I'm focusing on the information and skills that target increased cornering speed. Before I even started the work on the bike, I realized I had no real knowledge about corners. So I turned to the sport that has the highest cornering speed of any land-based vehicle on the planet. And The first thing that stood out is how the drivers used the entire road. To make a left turn, they go all the way to the right of the track and then they swing back left. And geometry tells us that the quickest path between 2 points is a straight line. But what do you do when you can't take the straight line path? For race car drivers, where they turn is part of a larger strategy based on physics, practice, and a lot of skill. Now, I know riding a corner on a bike is so much different than even a normal car, but F1 circuits contain every kind of corner that you can think of. And racers want to get through those corners fast. The path they use is called the racing line, purely and simply the fastest way through a corner or a set of corners. If you had unlimited grip, you would always hug the inside. You would always go the shortest possible distance, hitting the geometric apex in the process. But the fact is, the tighter the radius or sharpness, the more you have to lean into a corner and the less speed your tires can cope with. Hugging the inside of the corner means you'd have to slow down pretty severely to avoid losing grip and sliding out. Hugging the outside edge might theoretically let you go faster, but you would be going a lot further depending on the width of the road. So the ideal racing line is a combination of both approaches. You can hug the outside of the road on the way in and then turn and clip the racing apex and end up back on the outside edge without losing too much speed. By starting out as far wide as you possibly can, and on a public road that will mean the edge or the center line of the road, and then getting to the inside, that smooth flowing arc, you're minimizing the angle that you are having to take, which means you can carry more speed. Let's watch one example of this. Here we have Tom Pidcock, and you can see he uses this wide apex wide approach. And even by using the term wide apex wide, you start to get a feel for the sequence of events and parts of a corner. And if you remember, this is where Dylan likes to start his riders out. So we will be doing the same. Let's break down a basic turn. A basic turn is made up of 3 parts: the entrance, the apex, and the exit. The turning point is where you counter steer, and this is where the bike is leaned into the corner. The apex is the point where a bicycle passes nearest to the inner side of a corner. And finally, the exit point, the point at which a corner is exited. The bike is straightened up and turning is practically finished, and you can start pedaling again. These are essential steps for cornering that I've started to practice in various situations, such as while driving, pushing my shopping trolley, and even walking into my bedroom. But before we move on from basic cornering theory, in real life, corners aren't so straightforward. Firstly, we're on a road, not a racetrack, so you can't take up the whole road. Then there's things like camber, an overlooked aspect of understanding roads that can significantly increase your chances of crashing if misunderstood. Another important factor, less obvious, is the road quality. Is it rough and grippy, or is it smooth, too smooth and slippery? Are there potholes, oil stains, or patches of debris? Oil puddles at the corner entrance and a pothole at the exit effectively make the corner tighter. This is why I've started relearning how to scan the road in front of me, especially before corners. So looking 25 to 50 meters in front of me, because I've come to realize that fundamentally descending, well, it seems to be about information processing and decision making. And the main decision you need to make over and over again is, what type of corner is this, in order to choose the appropriate speed, turning point, and apex. Starting with the question, can I see the exit? This will tell you how sharp the corner is and the corner's radius. If you can see the exit, then you can focus on the apex you want to hit and then move your focus to the exit point. If you can't see the exit, then indirect indicators can be used. So watching a tree line or a fence by the road and watching it turn, or reading traffic signs that signal tight corners. Let's see if you can spot the exit and the corner type in this short clip of Philippe Gilbert descending solo on stage 16 of the 2018 Tour de France. If I stop here, can you see the exit? No. This is a blind corner, meaning we don't know the radius of the corner or how sharp it is. Can we get clues about the sharpness from anything else? The wall on the side of the road, the sign, and I wouldn't rely on the motorbike because it takes a really early apex. All right, so it's a decreasing radius left-hand bend, and he must have misjudged the corner because he enters this corner with excessive speed and an incorrect line. His trajectory leads to an early and shallow entry into the left bend, resulting in, well, a not so nice ending. And this shows just how tricky this is, that even a pro can get it wrong. I'm using this type of corner as an example because the combination of blind corners and decreasing radius turns pose significant challenges for cyclists due to obscured sightlines. It's best to take a wider entry in order to maximize how far around the corner a rider can see. Gilbert's line would have been somewhere over here to the right. This highlights one of the most important safety lessons that I've come across. Corners with poor visibility can often hide danger, parked cars, or debris right behind the last visible point. So the rule that I have now is never ride faster than I can see. But again, corners don't sit in isolation. We need to link them together. So is there an optimal way to do this? And this is important to note. Optimal cornering lines only exist if you're riding alone, or in rare cases, if you're leading out a very strung out field. But like most things in cycling science, I'm afraid there is no evidence that can support a single strategy consistently across every possible condition. Most corners are complicated, and there's an endless variety of corners in which there's different combinations of radius and camber. So the racing line you choose for a particular corner is almost always a compromise. Take this set of corners from my downhill course. You're at the end of a very long, fast, straight section. Then I end up in an increasing radius corner, then quickly into a hairpin where it gets tight up in the opposite direction, and then it's followed by a long double apex right-hander and finishes on a tight increasing radius left-hander. Judging by what we've been discussing so far, you'd probably say you need to compromise your exit here so you wouldn't go all the way wide. However, in this example, you almost do the counterintuitive thing based on what we've already been learning. This corner is a long double apex. It nullifies most of the benefit you would get from going wide and cutting back towards it. It's better to aim directly for the second apex, trying to compromise the initial left-hander. You're wasting time, you're wasting distance. And let's take a look at it in real life. Not only do I have to compromise racing lines for the sequence of corners, but I have to factor in everything else going on. This is why it's such a complicated thing and doesn't have an easy answer. Now, I've mapped out my course to give me an idea of what types of corners there are, and I'm working on this skill consciously by taking the time to do this. But as we've seen, even in this case, there are elements that are changing every single time I go down this course. So even if you can pick out a fast racing line, it doesn't guarantee that you are finding the limits of your grip on the road safely. And because grip is all about traction and braking and cornering, there is a safe way we can measure it so that once learned will help you compare your progress over time and to the best in the world. Surprisingly, many people don't even know about these two tools that have made it over from motorsports to help cyclists know the boundaries of traction. To learn what these tools are and how that you can identify yourself as a beginner or an advanced descender, watch this video here, because knowing this information will boost your speed and make you descend faster and safer than ever before.